Good afternoon. I'm going to title this video, What's Done in the Dark Comes to the Light. So, I guess as the Taylor saga continues, I understand that there's many sides. There's people over here, there's people over here, there's people, it's not just cut and dry. And, I know I don't know everything. No one on the internet knows everything. But evidently, there's a scenario, if you know, there's a scenario with allegedly something buried by a tree. There's just a whole lot. And, it's strange that I'm even viewing any of this because I just happened to tune in on accident, I was slow at work. I was like, let me see what's going on over here. And I popped the earbud in and here we are today. And I've sort of bounced around and listened to some things here and there. And, the dangerous part about this is sort of the rush to judgment, right? Now, I'm biased. I won't lie. I'm biased. I'm biased on the side of the girl because I think as a man who's not qualified to make any decisions when it comes to a woman claiming as a girl she was abused. So sort of like, for lack of a better term, like the safe play for someone like me is to just assume that she's telling the truth, right? Now, you also have to take into, with that, you take into an account, that half or up to 2/3 of these sort of claims that are made and then even taken to the police are false reports. Now, I think that it's a dangerous arena for the internet to have any sort of play in it, right? Now, saying that I support anyone who says they're a victim, right? That's dangerous territory. Then you move on down to this Cattle Kings guy, right? Now, understanding that the cornerstone of criminal justice is that not one man or woman should be unjustly incarcerated, right? They know, and I say this, I've said it 100 times if I've said it once. Criminal justice understood that sneaky criminals and characters can beat a case. They knew that was always going to be part of it. But what the hunt is, one of the angles of the hunt is that not one man or woman be unjustly incarcerated, right? And what's dangerous is that this mob mentality, all of this should not even be a thing to be witnessed or have an opinion about online, right? Because the girl automatically opens herself up to supporters and then the people who don't support it because they're watching all the live streams, they're picking out inconsistencies in her story, they're doing this, they're doing that. Her initial deal on Brooks was under the influence. The ideal that as she continues to tell the story, if this Cattle Kings guy is truly an offender, what he has now is the opportunity to hear her story and then build a defense around it. You've got the whole lawyer deal. the asking for money for a lawyer, the whole NCMEC will help her navigate this process for free. The NCMEC attorneys, within theory, it is what they do every single day. They deal with cases of this nature, of this type. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the attorney that she's actually signed a contract for does not handle these cases specifically, right? He is not a huge organization like NCMEC, right? So that brings us back to the mob mentality, is that if this gentleman, Cattle Kings, did not perpetrate this crime, right, he's being unjustly labeled as guilty for one of the more heinous things that can happen to someone on this earth, right? Now, I say that because right here, you'll see, this is from Brooks' latest update on the Taylor situation, which went members only. I'm not here to say what it is because I don't know. But what I can tell you is what it looks like, or what it could look like to some people. To some people who are tracking this thing, they see there's an update, they see it's members only. And so out of concern or just sheer nosiness, it prompts people to now pay to watch this sort of materials. This isn't content. These are materials, right? These are materials that could be used later on down the line to either prove someone's innocence or prove someone's lying, right? Because this gal, her very first, like I spoke earlier, her very first live stream about this, she was under the influence. She was intoxicated, by her own words. At one point, she said there were 3 patrol cars or 3 police cars coming down her driveway. You never hear her knock at the door. You just hear her say, "Oh, there's 3 police coming down my driveway." And then you never hear her talk about it again, right? So you understand that there's probably some exaggerations going on. I'm not here to say who did what. What I am here to do is show you what's dangerous about this, right? Let's think for a moment that Cattle Kings is guilty. He just hasn't been brought to trial and convicted, right? I mean, up until Brooks' first panel with her, she'd not even taken it to the police in Durant, Oklahoma. She had reported it, I think she said 6 or 7 times in Washington. The situation did not happen in Washington. It happened in Durant or Oklahoma, wherever. Not Colorado, but Oklahoma. So now you have an individual in here who pays to watch this sort of content. I did not pay for this content. The screenshot was sent to me. Someone who pays for this kind of content and is now suggesting either him or someone else. I mean, the connotation is he didn't say, "Hey, I can get somebody to do this," almost as if this individual would be willing to carry out a vigilante style justice, street justice. Now, I think that all of us have been in mindsets in at some point in our life where we thought activities like this, for whatever reason, road rage, whatever, anything you can think of that would drive you to a point of anger where you are mad. And I don't mean like just mad. I mean like you're mad. You've gone mad, right? But now we have someone who is suggesting that vigilante justice could even be an option. Now, Do I think that someone on the internet who would be dumb enough to post that would also be even dumber to try to carry that out? I don't know. You see the craziest things from people on the internet every day. But this comment was made in the dark. Now it comes to the light, right? And you have Brooks putting the heart on it. Let me tell you what, as a creator myself, I only heart positive comments that I align with. If I don't align with your comment, I don't give it a heart. In fact, usually what I do is I'll start with just deleting the comment, right? I'm past that point in my life where I need to sit here and argue with every Tom, Dick, or Harry. I'm just not going to do it, right? I'm just going to get rid of it. If you come back and do it again, I just block you, right? It's easy. It's in fact what the police would tell you to do if someone is leaving you comments or messages that you don't want to read or be exposed to. First things first, block them, right? So this gentleman, and I'm guessing it's a gentleman, maybe it's a gal, I don't know. This was done in the dark, and now it comes to the light, and it's yet further proof, in my opinion, as to why these things do not have a home on the internet, right? These things do not have a place on the internet. They just don't, right? And this is one of the reasons why. You may have, and I'm not calling this person a fanatic, but you have fanatics like that on the internet that jump behind whatever and then multiply that by their belief system. And then you have a real issue potentially, right? So I just think that moving forward, these sort of things, typically in the true crime world, you don't hear about them until there's an arrest, at the very least an indictment, an arrest, a trial, a conviction, a sentencing phase. This situation that everyone's been watching has not even been reported. Maybe now, but some days ago, had not even been reported to the correct jurisdiction. Now, all of a sudden, we have someone making a comment that Brooks loves. She didn't go in there and correct the gentleman like, no. We need to wait. We would prefer this guy, if he's guilty, to do 25 years in a penitentiary. Not just one of your random run-of-the-mill. Vigilante justice looks like what the Oklahoma predator poacher people did to Arctic Fox. That's vigilante justice. But this situation, if you jump back over here and say, okay, theoretically, let's say for a moment he did it. It's already been exposed. So what can a predator hunter do at this point? Nothing. It's the next step up, right? Now the vigilante justice is that someone gets hurt, right? And you start looking like a scenario where it could be a scenario where two people get hurt. You feel me? So this is why I don't think anyone on the internet is qualified to handle these sorts of situations. They're just not. Me included, right? I'm able to look at either side and then realize I'm not qualified. It is a bunch of people in between all this who will swear on everything they love. They are qualified to be doing this, right? You've got this internet phenomenon where her mother, her brother, her stepdad, or whatever he is, you've got people in the familial lineage who are very unhappy with this gal, right? So all of this stuff on the internet isn't helping, right? It's not helpful. What's helpful is to keep it compartmentalized in a vacuum away from the internet, right? We're not on here giving this woman, this young lady, multiple chances to tell her story And then as I understand it, there's many inconsistencies. There's intoxication. There's this, there's that. I've heard a few things myself. And I'm not an exaggerator of the truth or the facts or the details. I've heard the gal make some inconsistent statements, right? Not going to go into what they are, but I've heard inconsistencies myself. Does that mean she's lying? No. Does that mean dude's guilty? No. What it means is that it is such a touchy place, and that justice for this thing could be so thin, it could tight wire walk on one detail that maybe she said differently here or there. Right? You don't give victims the opportunity to put their foot in their mouth, right? That's not for us to do. That's for lawyers and juries and all of the things. And I guess in closing, one of the things that I must mention is that so many people that are all the way on the side that, well, cattle kings did it. Those people are also the kind of people who at some point in life either will or have been sent a juror's summons. You cannot trust people to sit in a court and listen to testimony and then think that in their private life in a court, these people would make suitable jurors. When they're online convicting a man, or even the ones that say she's lying, those people would make poor jurors. Right? Amen. Anyways, moving forward in life, I would just say, and I wouldn't tell anyone to abandon ship, because this young lady already has a whole lot invested in this. And she's been made a lot of promises. And so now, as someone who has put your nose in the business, you almost have to do everything you've told this gal. Have a great day.